Okay, so every now and then, as I'm looking around for new books to review, books that kind of like spark my interest, take my fancy, whatever, every now and then I come across something which I just instantly know, oh my gosh, that looks like a book that I have to have. That is a book that I'm interested in. And this book here, I'm Too Young to Die, published by Bitmap Books, is just one book like that. I mean, look at that cover with those skulls, and I don't know, the striking black and white contrast. They look so evil. And then the title, I'm Too Young to Die. This is a book about the art and development of basically first-person shooter games, and it's specifically focused on the period between 1992 and 2002, and they explain in this book why they chose that exact period. Anyway, this book, as I say, is published by Bitmap Books. It came out, I think, on the 15th of November 2022. I saw it up for pre-order a while ago, so I've been waiting for a while for this book to come out, and I'm glad that this day is finally here. On the inside of the front cover here, oh, incidentally, I'll just let you know, as with all Bitmap books, and you can order them straight from the Bitmap Books website, as with all of them, you get a free PDF version of the book as well. So in this review, I will show you the PDF. I mean, the content is exactly the same, but the flattened PDF actually makes it easier to sort of review on a screen. Obviously, holding the book itself in your hands is a nice experience too. So anyway, here we go. Let's move forward. So I like, on this inner cover, you've got all these like crosshairs basically from different games. I don't know if they've just made up some fancy designs or whether they've actually taken these from games. And if you're a complete first-person shooter aficionado, maybe, just maybe, you can match the crosshair to the game. Or maybe the designers have just come up with some nice, pretty... I don't know. I'm just waffling there, aren't I? But anyway, that's funny, I think, in a funny way. So it says, thank you for purchasing one of our books. Please enjoy this complimentary digital PDF. Looking at the PDF, obviously, at the moment, you wouldn't get that in the printed version. I like this screen here. This is from Doom, is it not? Where you basically start the game. I can just imagine the sound effects in my head at the moment as well, where you basically can sift through and choose the difficulty level, and they're described by I'm Too Young to Die, Hey Not Too Rough, Hurt Me Plenty, Ultraviolence, Nightmare. I think I used to keep it on Hey Not Too Rough most of the time. I was in awe of anyone that could play that game on Ultraviolence or Nightmare even. Anyway, we can also see the contents page here. So you'll see on page 76 it starts in 1992. It goes through until sort of page 412. It talks up to 2003 and then talks about beyond. And then you get a game index as well. So that starts on page 368. You can see some of the titles there. Curiously, there's the Bard's Tale mentioned in there. I'm not sure if I'd have that down as a first-person shooter. But anyway, there's lots and lots of quality titles mentioned in that list. And moving on, there's loads and loads more. It's alphabetically ordered by game title. What else have we got in here? All kinds of classics. Let's see. Duke Nukem, of course. The Dooms. Deus Ex. What else? GoldenEye. Half-Life. Halo Combat Evolved. Yeah, and so on. Redneck Rampage. I remember playing that on the PC way back. That was a game with a difference. With the moonshines you could drink. There's a few more there, starting with Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Yeah, all kinds of games there. And then I like the way they've got these interviews, because there's a lot of interviews in this book, incidentally, but they've kind of done the kind of the portraits of the people they're interviewing in the kind of style of those heads that you might see in something like Doom, in the corner of the screen there. There they are, in some nice bitmap art. So we get this introduction by Stuart Main. If you're reading this, then I suspect that, like me, you have fond memories of the era of classic first-person shooters. Sure do. Sure do, Stuart. I think that's a bit of Quake there, isn't it? I seem to remember that gun. Yep, so here's the introduction. I won't go through all of this, I haven't got time. A little quote there on the right. I want to showcase games you've never heard of to remind you of first-person shooters you played back in the day but have since forgotten, and perhaps reveal something new about games you're already familiar with. So then we get a foreword by John Romero. A bit more Doom in there. And what I really like is, even today, I'll have a go on Doom. I'll just fire it up on the Xbox and stuff. And actually, the graphics, even though they're really kind of pixelated, as you can see like on the left, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to ruin my enjoyment of the game at all. Which is more than can be said for some games that are very old and dated and frustrating. I think FPSs are still playable today, even the really old vintage ones. Here's a few more screenshots. More games mentioned here, including Wolfenstein. There's an overview of first-person shooters here. And they're saying here, this is the justification here for picking that period from 92 to 2002. They're saying they did that because each year in that particular period delivered rapid advancements in the first-person genre, including changes in gaming platforms, the engines that were behind the games, the controls, the graphics, and even the audience has changed, they're claiming. So I remember this on the right, that's Realms of the Haunting. That was kind of, yeah, that was a pretty creepy game. And it was a bit of a sort of adventure game as well. It wasn't just blasting stuff. Anyway, there's various stuff here that's very interesting if you're into gaming history, and in particular into first-person shooters. There's a bit of, history there. What else? I remember playing that Blood game there with the pitchfork. That was pretty violent. And in fact, it says, look, games like Blood revelled in their over-the-top violence. Yeah. So, yeah, I like this screenshot here of Doom. That's the head there in the middle at the bottom, starting to get a bit of a nosebleed, starting to get a bit injured. Health's only 62%. I like the way that changed as you got more and more kind of beat up. Some more games here, and so on. I like here when we get to page 32, we are presented with a bit of a timeline of the major titles that shaped kind of the development of this particular genre. You might not know these particular games where it starts off here. I'm not particularly familiar with them, to be fair. But you soon get onto some rather more familiar titles, including Wolfenstein 3D there. Got Duke Nukem makes an appearance. GoldenEye, Half-Life, Unreal, Quake. Some classic titles in there, and it seems to end. Well, you got Deus Ex, you got Halo Combat Evolved, the first Halo game. Oops, I've just skipped forward. Steady on. Yeah, I'm still talking. Stop it, computer. Halo, the first of the Halo franchise. Brilliant game that came out with the Xbox when that first arrived. Now there's a breakdown here of first-person shooters. So let's have a little look. They've got the anatomy of a first-person shooter. Various stuff like the environment, the characters in the game, the HUD, the heads-up display. Because they all tend to have these kind of things, don't they? It's a standard thing that you would expect. But at the same time, they often have them slightly different from game to game, just to make each game slightly unique. So yeah, health display, the weapon you're using, the crosshair that I mentioned at the beginning. Yeah, and then we've got a glossary. This just some of the sort of terminology that's used in this book. Sprites, wireframes, etc. Well, you know what lighting is and textures, but it just talks about what they actually mean. We've got another interview here. And so on. So I'll just keep flicking through the book a little bit more. The Phantom Slayer. Look at these. These are going back along. It's very Spectrum-ish, isn't it, that one? Wow, look at that. I remember playing that game on the right. Was it Dungeon Master? I can't even remember. What was it called? It was a dungeon crawler for sure. I think that was Time Crisis on the left in the arcades, which presumably did come to consoles too. I remember watching a friend play that putting a serious amount of money into a machine to play that game. It's one of the ones with the actual kind of the pistol holder. I think one of the earliest ones that I remember in that genre was Operation Wolf. You have sustained a lethal injury. That was a classic. I haven't seen that mentioned in this book, but maybe it's somewhere there in the small print. So yeah, I'm just going to keep moving through this game. Some driving games in there by the looks of it. Terminator, another interview. This is, I think that's the last page. This is a great book. If you are a fan of this genre, as am I, then you really have to get this book. It's something you can have on your bookshelf. You can dip in and out of it. You can have a good reminisce about some of those games that you played back in the 90s and possibly before. So yeah, it's a great book. It's got some amazing stories in there and history, but also some amazing screenshots that will really take you back. So I do recommend it. Thanks for watching this video. Bye for now.